name's Sarah Gould-Waslohn, and I'm going to be bringing you today a workout that we're going to be using some weights. So this will be mostly working with the arms, a little bit of abdominals as well, and we'll see if I can fit in some legs. It'll hopefully be a shorter workout, though I do like to talk so that lengthens things out. You can be seated on a chair. This is not the ideal chair for you. You can see I'm sitting pretty low. You want to sit in something where your thighs would be parallel to the floor. So you can see here, I'm sitting really low. It turns out I don't have any regular chairs at home, so I'm working with what I have. I'm just going to have my legs crossed so that my hips are just slightly higher than my knees. You can do this sitting on a couch or sitting on a chair, ideally sitting forward on the chair or the couch so that you're not leaning back into the backrest, but rather sitting forward and nice and tall on top of your sits bones. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. You're gonna want some weights. You might not have weights at home. I'm a Pilates instructor and I don't have weights at home. So that happens. There's a couple of options. If you have some canned goods, this is some organic pumpkin that I've had in my cupboard for 2 or 3 years. So these I think would estimate somewhere between 1 and 2 pounds, which is about the weight that we want for the type of work we're going to be doing. Just as an alternative, just to show you how you can get creative, I also filled these mason jars with water, and it feels about the same, maybe a teeny tiny bit heavier, probably around that 2 pound mark I found with these. So you can get creative, you can use whatever you have around. You could use, a gin bottle, although that gets heavier and harder to handle, or, dish soap, whatever you've got around that you can hold on to. If you have 2 weights that are uneven, you might just kind of switch hands every once in a while to even your 2 shoulders out. So whatever 2 weights that you can find, I might alternate between the 2. So once you've got your weights, your 2 weights, 1 for each hand, and you're seated with me, let's just talk about how you're sitting first. So I want you to, again, be sitting slightly more forward so that you can feel those 2 ischial tuberosities, those 2 bones that you sit on. They're kind of underneath your glutes a little bit, way down deep. And then I also want you to be tilted slightly forward, just slightly so that we're in a little anterior tilt. You can see my lumbar spine is slightly arched, as it would be if I were standing. So we have that neutral pelvic position, which is not here, which is not in a flat back. This would be me sitting behind my sits bones. My pubic bone is not in contact with the seat. I would like your pubic bone also in contact with the seat. So once you're sitting tall, we're also going to have the collarbones wide, which means we're squeezing the shoulder blades slightly together and downward, so kind of a V shape that you can imagine on your back. And it's subtle. I don't want you to draw the shoulders back so much that you arch your back. And I'm really exaggerating, obviously. But you don't want to thrust your low ribs forward, but we want to pull the abdominals in so that your low ribs are pulling back and your shoulders are pulling back, and watching that you don't end up in forward head. So we're also pulling the chin back, which I know feels like a lot. And if you forget, that's okay. That's totally okay. All right, so we've found ourselves sitting tall, pulling the abdominal wall in, and we've got a weight in each hand. And we're gonna simply start with the arms low, palms facing forward, collarbones wide. You could also do this standing if that works for you. And we'll simply do a few bicep curls. And we'll actually go all the way to the shoulder, just to get the joints moving. Wrists straight, elbows are where the movement's coming from, and collarbones wide. So just practicing that collarbones wide for now. So we're focusing more on the collarbones and still pulling the low ribs back, belly button in, and more weight into the pubic bone. I got a lot of rolls, I'm sorry. And now come just to a 90-degree bend of your elbows, and we'll rotate the upper arms out and in. Rotating out and in. So the upper arm is rotating within the shoulder socket. See if you can do this without moving the shoulder blades. Stabilize your scapula, meaning that they don't move on your back. Harder to do. Keep your elbows close to your sides. Don't let those arms detach. Elbows stay glued to your sides. So the idea is that we're trying to take our hands back behind us a little bit. They may not get there, but that's the trajectory of our rotation. Rotating the upper arms within the shoulder sockets. And you may start to notice those weights feel just a little bit heavier than when we started. The more we do, the heavier it'll start to feel. And just a little more with the rotator cuff. Let's rotate out and hold. Grab on tight to whatever your weight is. Turn the palms back a little bit. So we're supinating the forearms. Still rotating externally through the upper arms. Make sure your ribs don't thrust forward, but pull the belly back. And now from here, keeping all of this rotation, we're gonna reach the knuckles or the weights out. Not very far, my elbows are still bent. And then pull your elbows back in. Watch that your back is not arching, that your mid or upper back is not arching, the lower back is. Reach out and pull in. Just keep engaging those abdominals. Trying not to lean back and still trying to face your palms behind you, which is hard. Squeeze those elbows in. One more. If your shoulders don't like this, don't do it. Just give it a break and then come back in. Go ahead and rest the weights or rest your arms and just roll your shoulders a little bit. Exaggerate those movements and reverse. Getting the shoulder girdle to move here. So notice the movement of your shoulder blades, your collarbones, as well as the shoulders themselves. And of course the arms come with, the upper arms come with the shoulder. And then roll the shoulders forward as if they're gonna kiss in front of your chest, and then pull the shoulders back, squeeze those shoulder blades, shoulders forward and shoulders back. Imagine those shoulders are gonna kiss in front of you, and then squeeze the shoulder blades to touch behind you, forward and back, and really exaggerate this. If the rib cage moves forward and back, that's okay too. Just be aware of it. One more. And then back to neutral, or somewhere between those two extremes, and slide the shoulder blades up and the shoulder blades down. Shoulders up and shoulders down. Two more. Up and down and up and down. So we're gonna take those arms down by your sides. Again, palms facing forward. I'm gonna switch out my legs because one leg is starting to fall asleep. Okay, so palms facing forward, the scapula are flat against the back, so we're drawing the shoulder blades slightly together, heart open or chest open, and pull the low ribs back. From here, we're gonna think of sliding the shoulder blades down your back as you reach the arms out, no higher than shoulder height. We don't wanna come any higher than this, and lower down with control. So I want you to think really of drawing the shoulders down as the hands raise up, so that we're engaging the muscles underneath the shoulder blade, below the shoulder in the armpit. You could turn your palms up toward the ceiling if that's helpful to you. Sliding the scapula down your back as you raise the arms up. So that should maintain a lot of space around your neck, meaning that the shoulders don't come up around your neck. This would be using the muscles above the shoulder girdle to raise the arms. And there are actually less muscles there. There's less muscle mass, so that gets really tiring really fast. Draw the shoulders down as the arms come up. Right, in physics we know there's equal and opposite force in opposite directions. So something has to move down in order for the arms to come up, or in order for the arms to come up, we gotta move something down. So try to think in those terms. And so let's raise the arms up. They don't have to be as high as mine. They can be lower down. Palms facing up toward the ceiling, and we'll take the arms forward, pinkies to touch if possible, and then open the arms out and then slightly back. But watch that those ribs don't come forward. So we're moving forward and back on the same plane now. And I like to keep a little bend in my elbows so that I'm not locking out the joints of my elbows, keeping it soft so that all the work stays in the muscles rather than the ligaments. All right, shoulders stay down, belly button pulling in, low ribs pulling in, long feeling through the back of your rib cage. This is starting to feel heavy, and you can always call it quits sooner than me. There's no shame in that. And we'll take the arms down by your sides. I'm gonna move my legs to get my legs out of the way. So we're gonna start in this same position with the arms low, palms facing forward. Same idea in that we're drawing the shoulders down, but now we're raising those arms forward. And again, they may not come as high. We've done a lot with the shoulders already, so they might be a little bit tired. Avoid hoisting the arms up with the top of the shoulder. Instead, draw the shoulder blades down your back to raise the arms up. They might not go as high. That's okay. Smaller is better here. Smaller is better. Make sure that those shoulder blades are drawing back and together slightly, so the shoulders have the sense that they're pulling behind your body instead of being in front of your body, which is a totally different feeling, or maybe a slightly different feeling. It feels totally different to me, but your body might feel different. Shoulder blades draw down as the arms come up. One more, practicing that skill. And let's release, let's set those weights down or rest your arms. And again, roll the shoulders a little bit in each direction. Okay. And while we're sitting here, go ahead and grab onto opposite elbows. Let's take the arms a little lower than shoulder height. And we'll just take some rotation of the rib cage. Rotating right and left. Take it slow here. And try to make the movement happen from your rib cage. And see if you can use your obliques to get there. Avoid leaning back, but stay upright over the pubic bone and sits bones. And avoid using the arms to help. See if you can rotate from the rib cage so that the light of your sternum is what's moving around the room. Feel those obliques turn on, shoulders down. One more each way, wringing out your spine. Okay, so now we're gonna go onto the floor. If you want, you can lay on a towel, or if you have a yoga mat or a rug or whatever, that would be great. So I'm gonna move my little stool here. And my mason jars are leaking just a tiny bit, so I'm gonna switch to my cans of pumpkin. All right, I'm gonna lay down here. So just lying flat on your back. Make sure I'm in view. Okay, so lying down, I prefer my legs bent. That's my personal preference. If it's more comfortable for you to have your legs long, you're absolutely welcome to do so, as long as you can still engage your abdominals without dumping in your lower back. Or if you dump in your lower back, whatever. It's less important here. I just get really picky. Okay, we're gonna have both arms up, a weight in each hand. Or if you have a really tender shoulder at the moment, you might just do it with one weight. Maybe don't do it on that shoulder that hurts. Okay, you can always take the weights away and just do the arm work. So we're gonna do some scissors here. I want you to press your lower ribs down. Take one arm back, one arm forward. Maybe to the floor, maybe not, and then come back up. And go the other way. Let the shoulders be heavy. Let your lower ribs be heavy. Arms are long, meaning that the elbows are almost straight, mostly straight. Maybe except for that micro bend, otherwise they'd be straight. Just without dumping into the ligaments. And keep pressing your lower ribs down. You may have to limit your range of movement. If you get any pinching in your shoulders, in either shoulder, then definitely limit your range of movement. Maybe you just come here, or maybe they become very small scissors. Just working within the range that feels good for your shoulder. And as we go along, you might be able to make that range a little bit bigger. But really listen for those signals in your body of pain, of not good pain, right? There's okay signals of pain where you can push it, and there's signals of pain where you have to stop. So knowing the difference is important, and listening carefully to your body is part of learning that difference. It's a huge part of learning that difference. So let's take those arms up. Hopefully we kind of evened out on both sides. Shoulders down and heavy. Again, the lower ribs are heavy, and we're going to take kind of a fly open and then up. So again, I'm not locking my elbows here. The elbows have the tiniest little micro bend. Opening and closing. And just notice here, if your wrists are doing odd things, try to keep the wrists straight so that they're not dropping. Wrists stay straight. So it becomes a wrist workout as well. And let's do 2 more or so. Gently drawing your abdominal wall in or down. That wall spans from the base of your sternum all the way down to your pubic bone, your pubis symphysis. Okay, and I don't know if that was true or not. Anyways, now we're going to kind of add that together. A little confusing. I'm going to have you take your right arm back, left arm forward, just so we're all on the same page. From here, doesn't have to be as low, but from here, we're going to windmill or helicopter the arms around. So I'm going in a circular motion so that now my left arm is back and my right arm is forward, and then I'll come back up. And then I'm going to reverse the way I came. So left arm back, right arm forward, and windmill or helicopter around, just hovering those arms off the floor, or they could be higher, and coming back up. And again, right arm back, left arm forward, windmill or helicopter around, and lift. Left arm back, right arm forward. If you have a roller at home, you could lie on your roller so that your spine lines up with the roller if you really wanted to challenge your stability. But it's much harder, I'll warn you. So you can do 1 more each side. Working with the control in your shoulders, noticing any clunking, any not so smooth places. And weights up. Okay, let's take those weights together. All right, elbows will stay about over the shoulders. Shoulders heavy and down. Pressing your low ribs down. We're going to bend the elbows. This is called the skull crusher, I believe. Bringing those weights toward your forehead or the top of your head, and then pressing up. So we really just hinge at the elbows and then straighten the elbows, stabilizing the shoulder joints and the wrist joints. Now, if you wanted to make this more challenging for yourself, you could press your lower back down into the floor or rug beneath you and bring one leg to tabletop, or perhaps both legs to tabletop. Only so much as you can keep your abdominals pressing down into the floor, keep your lower back pressing into the floor. Some would call this an imprint of your lower back. You don't have to bring the legs up. You could certainly leave them down. Let the shoulders be heavy and keep your shoulders away from your neck. And again, the more we do, the heavier this will feel. Moving slowly is also important here. Now, if you want to make this a little bit more complicated or just have fun with it, we could straighten the legs up as you straighten the arms. Bend your knees to tabletop as you bend the arms. Arms and legs straighten. Arms and legs bend. So I'm stabilizing my upper arms and my upper legs, hinging at the elbows and knees. So my arms and legs are almost doing mirror images of each other, like if there were a mirror between them. Press your lower back down. Let's do 3 more. Belly button down as the arms and legs come up. Last one, bend. And lift. You could keep your legs here, perhaps. You could bend them to tabletop if you prefer, or set them down. I'm going to keep my legs up. Separate the weights a little bit, slight bend in your elbows, and just make some circles here with your weights. Keep your weights or your hands in your peripheral vision. So we don't want to go so big that it gets out of your field of vision. So I would call these sort of medium-sized circles. Keep pressing the lower back down. If your legs are up, reverse those circles. And we want to move with control. So control through the shoulders, not just wild flailing. Okay, and now maybe bring those weights down. And now if your legs are on the floor, go ahead and bring them back up. Or you could do this just with one leg, is absolutely fine. I'll do it with 2. Press your lower back down and just start to draw little circles. And as you circle, as you bring the legs toward you, see if you can lift your tailbone slightly up, pressing down with your arms. See if you can find a little air in the pelvis, little lift. And if you've got just one leg up, go ahead and switch legs or switch direction if you've got 2 legs up. Again, trying to find just that little pelvic curl to engage the lower abdominals, pressing down through the shoulders, down through the arms. And bend your knees and rest. Okay. Maybe hug your knees into your chest. Perhaps stir your knees in opposite directions, just to give the hip joints a little massage. Reverse. And we'll do one more series of exercises in quadruped. So find your way to hands and knees. Okay, and we're going to use just one weight at a time. Okay, I'll have my 2 weights anyways. So wrists underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. You could be, if you've got a table, a low coffee table, you could be here with it. I don't know if you can see me here, but I've got my forearms on the coffee table, and then you could just do one arm at a time. Or you could be on your hands if that works for you. Okay, so on your forearms or on your hands, knees are underneath your hips, and find that long neutral spine, as opposed to being arched or just hanging out or rounded. Try to find a long neutral spine if you can. All right, starting with one arm, I'm going to use my left so you can see me. So I'm going to grab a weight with my first arm, and I'll have those knuckles down on the floor where my hand would be. So from here, I'm nice and long through the spine, belly button up, and just pulling that elbow up, bringing my weight toward my rib cage, and then tapping down to the floor. So lifting and lowering. Make sure you're lifting up out of your supporting shoulder that we're not dumping into that shoulder. That's tricky to do. Pulling your elbow up to the ceiling, and we want to feel that the scapula is coming toward the spine. So I'm using this to move the shoulder blade, retract the shoulder blade in toward midline as I raise that weight up. And now hold it up. Again, lift up out of that bottom shoulder, and we'll straighten back, more of a tricep press. And again, if you go slower, it feels harder. Gravity feels a bit heavier. Keep reaching long through the top of your head, out through your sits bones and belly button up. Keep the collarbones wide. We've already done quite a bit of triceps. And we'll say one more, and we'll set that down. Okay, switching arms. We're going to do the same sequence on the other arm. Lift up out of your supporting shoulder. The hand that has your weight, you're going to just have those knuckles resting on the floor. So we pull the elbow up and tap that weight or hand down. Elbow up as high as you can. So I'm bringing that weight toward my waist or toward the rib cage. You could say under the armpit. So drawing my scapula toward the spine. Finding some scapular retraction. Still lifting through the abdominals. Getting long through the crown of my head, out through the sits bones. As if being pulled in opposite directions. 2. 1, hold it up, and then straighten that arm back and bend. The higher you lift your elbow, the more challenging that can become. Also, the slower you go. You could try this in slow motion. We also get some oblique work because you're just on 3 limbs here. If you wanted to go crazy, you could send your opposite leg back. Belly button to spine. 3, 2, 1. Sorry if you didn't get to do that on the other side. Maybe next time if you do this again. And let's switch hands again. One last exercise. So again, resting just those knuckles barely on the floor, I'm going to take this arm out to the side and tap down. Out to the side and tap down. Kind of the reverse of the fly we did. And that feels like enough for me. And I'll switch hands. Maybe a slight bend in the arm that's got the weight. Lifting up out of your supporting shoulder. Belly button to spine. 2. And 1. And just to finish, let's try a really big challenge here. Spread the fingers wide, press down through your palms, or if you're on your forearms, press down through those. You might want to get off your coffee table, actually, if you are on the coffee table, and bring your forearms down to the floor. That's going to be a lot more stable for you here. Okay, tuck your toes under your feet. Press down through the arms, down through the feet. Lift your knees up just 2 inches. See if you can stay and hold for the count of 10. Shorter or longer. 9, 8, 7, breathing. 6, 5, you can do more, you can do less. 3, 2, 1, lower down. You're welcome to do that multiple times, that little knee hover. You could add movement to it, forward and back, side to side, or circular, making sure you get both directions. That's hard. You could also try lifting a foot off the floor, or lifting and tapping opposite shoulder, keeping those knees low. All kinds of variations there. You're welcome to keep going with some of those variations, or, like me, call it quits. And thank you so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks.